There are a growing number of water bottles with built-in filters on the market, and there are plenty of good reasons to have one, including camping, travel, emergencies like natural disasters, or if you just want some extra peace of mind. In this video, you'll see 3 very different options. You'll see how each one works, which contaminants they're designed to remove, and the cost to buy one as well as the ongoing cost of the filters. Then we'll do a filter test of our own so you can see them in action and view the results. So let's dive right in and find out which is the best filter bottle for you. This is Bottle Pro, and I promote health through hydration by testing a lot of bottles so you can find the right one. If you're new to the channel, welcome. First, let's look at how each one works, starting with Brita. This is the simplest option because it just has a bottle, a lid, a straw, and a filter. To use it, you press the filter into the silicone fitting on the bottom of the lid, then slide the straw over the filter and lock it into the lid by twisting it to the right. Then you just sip on it like any other straw lid. GRAYL is different because it has a press-style filter. The bottle comes with an outer plastic sleeve, an inner plastic bottle, the spout lid, and the filter cartridge. To use it, you scoop some water into the outer sleeve, then you take the inner bottle with the filter on the bottom and you press it down into the sleeve. This forces water through the filter, and these one-way valves keep the clean water inside. When you do this, make sure you twist the spout cap a little bit so the bottle can vent. It takes quite a bit of force to press it down, so you'll probably need to put the bottle on the ground and use your body weight. Vitaloop, on the other hand, has a pump built into the lid that forces water through a filter. It consists of an outer metal sleeve on the lid itself that has a spout and a large housing for the pump, an inner flexible plastic pouch that holds the untreated water, an outer hard plastic bottle that holds the clean water, and the filter cartridge. To use this bottle, first you add water to the inner flexible pouch. You can push this button to take off the outer metal sleeve, then add water through this opening. Or you can dip the water bottle in a stream or a pond, for example. Just make sure you angle the bottle like this so the inlet is below the spout, and try to keep water from getting around the button or the charging port. Alternatively, you can unscrew the outer bottle and the inner flexible pouch, then fill up the pouch and screw it all back together. Then you push this button for 1 second and the pump will activate and go through a filter cycle. It moves water from the flexible pouch through the filter and into the hard plastic outer bottle. Now let's actually do a test. By the way, I'm leaving links to these bottles in the description, and big thanks if you use one, especially if you're going to buy one of these bottles anyways. It doesn't cost you anything extra and we earn a small commission. I scooped up some sandy dirt into a bin of water and stirred it all up. Then I got about 16 ounces of water in this measuring cup so you could see it before any filtering. Then I passed that water through a filter and I repeated that process for each bottle. For Brita, I used a syringe to pull water up through the straw, and for GRAYL and Vitaloop, I just used them as directed. I found that Vitaloop is a little tricky to pour water into this opening, so it's probably best to just submerge the bottle if you can, or remove the flexible pouch and fill it up separately, then reassemble everything. Brita took a while because of how I had to use the syringe, and GRAYL was the fastest, though it did take some effort. Vitaloop was the most complicated to get set up, but it certainly was the easiest after that because I just pressed this button and let the pump do the work. After the filtering, Vitaloop had the least amount of uncleaned water left behind, and that's because Brita's straw lid doesn't reach all the way to the bottom, and for whatever reason, GRAYL had more unfiltered water at the bottom even after 2 filter presses. But visually, each one seemed to help a lot, and the filtered water with each one was much clearer than the starting water. I also used these water quality test strips to see if there was any kind of noticeable difference, but as far as I could tell, they were all pretty much the same. Maybe Vitaloop was a little bit better on chlorine, and it actually looks at first like GRAYL and Vitaloop are a little worse on manganese, but I think that's actually just some discoloration because some dye from the zinc test flowed down because I didn't keep those strips as level during the 15-second wait time. Either way though, it's hard to tell any significant differences from these very basic tests. Now let's look at which contaminants each one is designed and proven to remove. Brita uses an activated carbon filter, and the marketing around this focuses on improved taste, as well as removing, quote, chlorine and more. I'm not sure what more is. I reached out to Brita to ask if they had any kind of data on whether it removes things like PFAS or microplastics, but I never heard back, so at this point, I'm not sure. GRAYL, on the other hand, has a much more robust filter. It also uses activated carbon like Brita, but it also has what they call non-woven ceramic fibers with a high electropositive charge. It removes things like viruses, bacteria, heavy metals, and even things as small as PFAS chemicals, which are mind-blowingly small. Check out this deep dive to learn more about those. I reached out to GRAYL and they sent sent me a summary of a test that showed the filter is effective at removing PFAS chemicals. So as far as I can tell, they've done their homework and have some data and tests to back up their claims. Vitaloop's filter also uses activated carbon as well as multi-stage filtration. And because the pump pushes water through the filter at a consistent rate, that allegedly makes the filtering more reliable. The filters are rated to remove a wide range of impurities, including basically all the same things as GRAYL, like bacteria, heavy metals, and PFAS. And that last one, Vitaloop sent me the test results. They also show several other tests on their website, and I certainly appreciate this level of due diligence and transparency. Now let's look at the cost. Brita is the least expensive option, and they market how each filter lasts for 40 gallons or about 2 months. You can buy a 6-pack like this for $16 right now, so the filters really don't add that much more of a cost over the course of a year. GRAYL, on the other hand, is a lot more expensive. The replacement cartridges are also $30 each, and they last about 65 gallons. Your ongoing annual cost to own a GRAYL is about $120. Vitaloop is on sale right now for $100, but its retail price is $140. But either way, it's definitely still an investment. Each filter cartridge also costs $30 and lasts up to 66 gallons, so it's essentially the same as GRAYL's GeoPress. So overall, Brita is definitely the most affordable, while GRAYL and Vitaloop have similar startup and annual costs. That is, unless you go with GRAYL's really bougie option, which is their titanium series, and those bottles cost over $200. So overall, which bottle is best for you probably depends on how you'd use it. Brita is a good option if you're mainly looking for an entry-level filter bottle that might improve the taste and give you a little extra peace of mind without breaking the bank. You could also look at Simple Modern, which has a very similar bottle that has a less utilitarian look. GRAYL is a good option for backpacking, camping, and emergencies where you absolutely want to know for sure that you can purify your water. The fact that you can manually operate it and it doesn't rely on power or electronic parts means this is probably a better worst case scenario filter bottle. The main downsides are the cost and that it's going to be more awkward to use it in public places like an office or the airport. For that reason, Vitaloop may be the best option for traveling, either for vacation or business, especially internationally where the water quality may be different than what you're used to. The charge seems like it would last long enough for most people on most trips, and you can always bring a battery pack if you're worried about it or you don't have access to charging. However, it's the most complicated to clean, especially with cleaning and drying the inner flexible pouch, and you may want to have some Bottle Bright tablets to make it easier. It's also not as intuitive, and I found myself going back to the instructions to check what I was doing a few times, primarily because it's kind of expensive and I wanted to make sure I wasn't going to do something that could damage the pump. That being said, it's definitely something you'll get used to over time and you'll get better and faster at it. But I do have some concerns about the long-term durability of Vitaloop compared to simpler options like Brita and GRAYL. It's not like I've had anything break yet, and Vitaloop does seem to be very well designed and constructed. I just know that anytime you add electronics and critical features to any product, it also introduces new ways that it could break. And if the pump stops working after a few years, this just becomes an expensive, heavy bottle. But honestly, as long as you can comfortably afford it and you're doing something like a business trip where the worst case scenario if the bottle breaks is that you have to buy disposable bottles for a few days, I could definitely see how Vitaloop could be the best option because it's easier to use than GRAYL and it has better filtration than Brita. Hope this helps. Thanks again and happy hydrating.